I did not know that there were actresses and actors in movies. I thought that it was real. After I left Amish, when I was with the people that took me in, we were watching a movie and there was violence and it freaked me out, and I was like, I can't watch this because those people are dying. And they're like, it's just a movie. And they had to explain to me that this was just, they were acting. It wasn't happening in real life. My name is Naomi. I grew up in a very conservative Amish community called the Swartzentruber Amish. I lived the Amish life until I was 17, then I ran away, and today I will be answering questions about the Amish from the honesty box. Who are the Amish? The Amish are a group of people that are very religious, and they're Christians, and they live by a set of very strict rules called the Ordnung. And the Ordnung has all the rules about the way they dress, and even the way down to like the farming equipment that's allowed and not allowed. So they're very, very strict on their rules. It's a way of life. Are there punishments if you break the rules? Yes. So if you are baptized and you break the rules, you get shunned sometimes for 4 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. It depends on what you did, on how long that you're shunned, and to be accepted back, they have to admit what they did and ask for forgiveness. And then when everybody agrees to forgive them, they are accepted back into the church. What do you guys have against technology? They try to stay separate from the world. They do allow some technology, so it's not like they're against all of the technology, and some use a lot more technology than others, but the strict ones, they use very little technology because they don't want to be tied to the modern world. They try to stay separate from the modern world. But the technology that we are allowed to use, for example, we could have battery-operated flashlights, they could have little Honda generators to run the washing machine, and the table saw, and to pump the water from the well. So there's little things that they can have. Can you have sex before marriage? That is a big no-no, but it happens sometimes. Where did you think babies came from? Well, when I was little, I thought that my parents told us that God would just bless us with another baby, and sometimes they would say, oh, the stork dropped the baby in a bag down from the sky. But that was always very confusing. And eventually I figured out that Mom was the baby maker because her tummy would get big, and then one day there was a baby and her tummy would get smaller. But at that point I didn't know how they got in there or out until I was older. So.
Did you get any sex ed in school?
Absolutely not. Nobody ever talked to us about sex. I just figured it out when I would see the dogs having sex or the animals on the farm. But it's very taboo. Nobody ever talked about that. Do you get presents for your birthday? When I was there, we didn't even celebrate birthdays. The most acknowledgement that we got when it was our birthdays, we would get a tug on the ear, on our earlobe, however many years we were old. For example, if I was 4, I would get 4 tugs. And when I was 15, I had a crush on the milkman. And I always tried to be in the milk house when he would come because I had to wash the milk pails. And I told him when I turned 15 that it was going to be my birthday the next day, and he brought me circus peanuts, and I felt so special, and I couldn't believe that somebody gave me something for my birthday. What language do you speak? We spoke Pennsylvania Dutch. That is the primary language that the Amish speak. And in school, in 2nd grade, we have to learn how to speak and read and write in English as well.
Can you give us any of your favorite words from Pennsylvania Dutch?
Wel, ich kann hebben zoals ich will. Was willst du wissen, ich sauer kann? I said, I can say anything I want. What would you like to know that I can say? Do Amish people swear? Yes, they actually do. They have some Amish words. Gatsabamdi is one of them. I don't even know what that means. And they use the F word sometimes, or damn it, and things like that. So they do swear, absolutely. They're not supposed to. How did the Amish people come to America? They actually came on boats. In the early 1700s, they were fleeing religious persecution from Europe. And they came on boats and they first settled in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. They actually live in 32 states. And the biggest population is in Pennsylvania, followed by Ohio and Indiana. It's also in Canada. There's around 6,000, I think, in Canada as well. If you can't use cars, how do you get to the shops? They go by horse and buggy. Generally, the horse and buggies can go 15 to 20 miles. And if they can't use the horse and buggy, they get the English to take them if they have to go somewhere that's too far to go on the horse and buggy. And to travel from state to state, they travel by train or Greyhound bus. Can you rap any lyrics from Amish Paradise? Churning up, I can't say it. Hitching up the buggy, churning lots of butter. I raised the barn on Monday, soon I'll raise another. Walking through the valley where I harvest my grain, I take a look at my wife and realize she's very plain. That's just fine for an Amish like me. Do you have arranged marriages? No, absolutely not. But they do have to marry within the Amish sect that they are in. For example, I was Swartzentruber Amish, so I could only marry someone that was Swartzentruber Amish. It could be someone from another state, just the same Amish as I was.
So how many people would that mean that you could potentially marry?
They're in a lot of different states, but they are allowed to marry their second cousins. Why do you have faceless dolls? They're not allowed to have like graven images. It's like in the second, I think it's the second commandment. Like we couldn't even have calendars that had pictures. So our dolls did not have faces. And as a little Amish girl, I always fantasized about having a baby that had a face or that would make noises, because I saw that the neighbor's girl had a doll that would cry and make noises, and I thought it was amazing. Did anyone ever sneak technology into the community? We did. As kids, we had, well, I don't know if it's considered technology, but we had a radio and a camera that we were not supposed to have, and we would listen to the music when my parents went away, and we would let our girls, we would let our hair down and just be in our underdresses and take pictures and listen to music. It was really fun. Now a lot of the kids have cell phones, smartphones. Like I was there last summer at my sister's house, and I went upstairs to take a nap, and there's this big battery pack under the pillow. I was like, wow, they don't even hide it that good. I love this one. Explain Rumspringa. So this is a very big common misconception that all Amish get to go on Rumspringa. They get to go out into the world and be English and do whatever they want. And 85 to 90% of them actually go back and get baptized and live an Amish life, but some of them don't. But that's what Rumspringa is, and that's one of the questions I get the most. Oh, you just never went back from Rumspringa. Well, I never went on Rumspringa, I just ran away. This is a good one. Why did you leave the Amish community? I wanted freedom and technology, and I was a very rebellious teenager that wanted to see and do everything and experience life in a different way than from what I was raised. What was the first thing you watched on TV? When I was 15 or 16, I went to the English neighbor's house on Sunday with my brothers and sisters, and my parents weren't there, and our neighbors were cool. They didn't tattle on us. I did not know that there were actresses and actors in movies. I thought that it was real, like a documentary. And I had nightmares. It was horrible because I thought it was real, and like those people really got shot and hurt. And I was traumatized. And it wasn't until after I left Amish, when I was with the people that took me in, we were watching a movie and there was violence and it freaked me out. And I was like, I can't watch this because those people are dying. And they're like, it's just a movie. And they had to explain to me that this was just, they were acting. It wasn't happening in real life. Like, they did not get hurt and killed like I thought they were. Oh, this is a good one. How do you make butter? So we had milking cows when I was there. So we would sometimes get the milk off the cans if we wanted to make butter. And you have to let the cream get warm, and then we would put it in a butter churn, and we would crank it until it turns into butter, and then you drain the buttermilk and get the butter, and you have to wash it and like get all the buttermilk and stuff out.
That's kind of a stereotype, isn't it, of what Amish people do, but how realistic is it?
Making butter?
Yeah.
They actually make a lot of butter. Absolutely. So it's not a wrong stereotype because they do make a lot of butter. Do you have any photographs of your childhood? Not of my childhood.
Because Amish people don't have cameras, is that right?
They don't have cameras, and they believe that when they get their picture taken, it captures their soul. So from a young age, we were taught to go like this to blur our face if we notice someone taking our pictures. And hopefully they didn't capture our soul. It's interesting. How do Amish people date? So once they're 16 and a half, they join the singing. If a guy is interested, that's where they can start dating, when they can start dating. And if a guy is interested in a girl, he tells a group of guys that are single, and maybe like 4 or 5 guys, and then they go and talk to the girl. And if she agrees, the guy will take the girl home to her house to bed, and then he will go up and be in the bed with her till 4 or 5 in the morning. And before he leaves, he asks her if she wants to date him. And if he says yes, then they continue to date. If she says no, then he has to leave her alone. And if they do continue to date, he always gets to take her home, but he has to leave before the parents get up in the morning. And then on the Saturday nights when there's not church the next day, the guy gets to go to the girl's house around 9 p.m. and he spends the night in her bed. They're not supposed to have sex, but they can talk and kiss, and he has to leave in the morning before the parents get up. So that's how they date. What would happen if an Amish person watched porn? Well, it depends if they got caught or not, or if they were baptized or not. If they were baptized and they got caught, they would get shunned. And if they were under 18 and not baptized, and if they were already going to the singing, if we got in trouble after we were in the singing, we would have to skip going to the singing a couple times. Why do you wear old-fashioned clothes? Honestly, I'm not exactly sure why. It's just, I was always just told that's just our way, and it's always been like that. But I know that we're not allowed to wear like patterns or bright colors because they don't want people to be prideful or to focus on individuality. It's more about community. But our dresses all have to be dark colored down to our ankles, and the sleeves we can only just roll up to our elbows. And then this is called a cap in Amish, but I call it a bonnet. And there's a cape that usually comes over here, but that's the part I didn't like about my Amish outfit, so I don't ever wear that because I don't have to. And then there's an apron that just starts here, halfway. And then the men, they have to wear pants. They can never wear shorts, and they have black buttons on their pants. And the shirts also have to be dark colored, and the buttons always have to be the same color and the thread as the shirt is. And the little boys actually also wear dresses until they're potty trained. So not for all the Amish, this is just from my community. Some of the more liberal ones, the little boys do wear pants, but in my community, they wore dresses until they were potty trained. How quickly can you raise a barn? Usually it takes a little bit of time. They have carpenters to put down the foundation, and then in one day, the whole community comes together and they build it, they raise it all in one day. Like putting all the sidings and roof, everything in one day. It's amazing. Why don't Amish people go to school after age 13? They are exempt from the government to go to high school because they believe that practical training, like practical work, is more important for them to learn the ways of the Amish. For example, at some point, the girls, we learn how to make clothes and how to start your own family and all that stuff. So they get practical training rather than having to go to high school. That's more practical for an Amish life.
Were you sad to leave school at that age?
No, I was very happy because that meant I didn't have to go to school, but I got to be home with my mom, and I felt almost like liberated, like I was excited to go on and learn to do all the things that my older sisters were doing, and it was pretty cool. I love this question. Why are Amish women treated as second-class citizens? First of all, I don't think that they are treated as second-class citizens. I think that it's a stereotype, because the Amish men have a role, and so do the women, and they're both equally important to the community and for the families. The women take on the role as the homemakers, taking care of the kids, gardening, cleaning, cooking, making the clothes, and preserving the food. And sure, the men, they come and help with canning peaches and things like that sometimes, but the man's role is generally to be working outside or on the farm, or kind of the main breadwinner of the family, if you will. But I don't think that we're treated as second-class citizens at all. Why do Amish men all have long beards? So I'm not exactly sure why, but I know when they start having the long beards. For example, once the boys, they start growing facial hair, when they're teenagers, they shave it. Once they are baptized, they have to let the beard start growing. They cannot have mustaches, but they have to keep the beard around 1 inch long. And once they are married, they can never cut their beard ever again. So why they have them, except it's the tradition, I don't know. Is this a cult? Sometimes I kind of think it's very cult-like, but I don't think it is not an actual cult, because they don't have one central leader that controls everything. Instead, they have local bishops and preachers and the elders that make the decisions. And cults generally have one leader that controls everything, more like that. The elements that make me think that it's like a cult is that they try so hard to keep us there, and they don't want us to become English or run away or leave. So that's the part that, to me, feels like it's a cult. But like I said, they don't have just the one leader. They have the local bishops and the elders. And women are never bishops or preachers, just the men. Do Amish people consider themselves Americans? Yes. Absolutely, they are US citizens.
What's their opinion of like the US government and state?
They try to not get involved with the modern outside world. They are very to themselves and do not get involved in the outside world if they don't have to. Do Amish people use contraception? My community does not use contraception. Now, my youngest sister, she belongs to a church that's less liberal. She doesn't use like modern birth control, but she takes these pills that are natural, that are supposed to help you not get pregnant all the time, but she still has 7 kids, so I don't know how well they're working, but she thinks they work sometimes and sometimes not. My aunt has actually told me once that they're not allowed to use contraception because that's like, if God wants them to have a baby, they will have a baby. And preventing that is, again, it's a sin and it's against God's will. What do the Amish do for fun? There was not much time for fun except on Sundays when we didn't have church. And now sometimes they go out to eat, but when I was there, that was not a thing to go out to eat. And we could play baseball, kick the can, dodgeball, things like that in school. But there's not that many things to do for fun, or that much time for fun. Are Amish people happier? Okay, I do not have any scientific evidence about this or on this, but I feel like generally the Amish people are pretty happy. They live a very simple life and they are just happy. Maybe not the kids so much, the teenagers, but the adults, especially the older people. They just are just so calm and it seems happy and peaceful there. It feels peaceful when I go there. What do Amish people eat for dinner? So it varies, but in the summer we had lots of sandwiches and we would have bread and banana soup. So bread soup, I hated bread soup because it was just pieces of bread like crumbled up and we would put some brown sugar and milk on it. And then we would have maybe some ham or cheese, and we could make in some vegetables from the garden. They also eat a lot of sandwiches and then usually a fruit. And another soup that we would make is rivel soup, and that was more for winter when it was warm. Oh, it was like these, I don't even exactly know that, but they were like these little chunks that had egg yolk and flour, and then it was like this thick and creamy milk thing, and it was really disgusting to me. But my mom loved it and she made it very often, but I wasn't a fan. Could I join an Amish community if I wanted to? It doesn't happen very often anymore and it is really, really hard to. And the reason is because back in the day they would let some people join the Amish, but what happened most of the time, they ended up leaving again, and then the elders thought that that is influencing the Amish kids, so my community just doesn't allow it anymore. Do you regret leaving the Amish community? Absolutely not. I do miss some of the things, but I do not regret leaving. It was difficult because I was used to being around my big family and working all day, and when I left, after I left, my life was nothing like I had imagined that it would be after I left, and that was really challenging at points. But I don't regret leaving. I'm glad that I hung in there and I've created the life that I have now.
Do nuns drink alcohol? They certainly do. The answer to that is yes, and if you'd like to ask me what my tipple is, it's a bottle of Newcastle brown ale.